great mythos.
Welcome into Streaming Star Wars on this beautiful Friday. I am your host, Josh Most. For those of you that were expecting the handsome visage of David Amoletti, I apologize. You get me, but that's okay. We're going to talk about Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 14, The Tragedy. I don't know. I had a blast with this episode. Lots of things to talk about today. Probably maybe even a little controversy, maybe some hot takes. But before I say anything more, I got to get my crew in here, as was labeled on Twitter. But the crew has names, and especially cool names like Arzu. Yay! Hi. There she is. Welcome in, Arzu.
Hi.
Can't wait to talk to you. You are part of the crew, as is this guy, my bearded cohort. There he is, Mr. Lemire. Andy, welcome in to Streaming Star Wars. Andy, coming to us live from your classroom. Shh. Quiet, kids. Quiet, everyone. So, man, we have a lot to talk about. This was an absolutely, I mean, especially after last week's episode, to come in and get that reveal from Ahsoka and everything that was built up. And then now we kind of get a re-cameo from you-know-who, which, I don't know. There's some different feelings about that already. I'm excited to talk about it. On this Streaming Star Wars, we talk about like three things. What do we like? What were some of the cool Easter eggs? And what do we think is coming up? I don't know. Do we feel like this maybe took a little bit of a turn as far as the progression of the show? Or do we feel like it was kind of in line for what we were expecting? Those are the questions I want to ask. Before we get to you guys, though, I want to make sure we welcome everyone in the chat. Big shout out to you guys joining us. Of course, you can always find us. The best place to find us is on YouTube, at youtube.com/beyondtheblastdoors. Or at our website, beyondtheblastdoors.com. So plenty of stuff to go on. We'll get to the chat in a minute. But before I say anything more, I just want to ask one question, because I just want to dive right in here. Scale of 1 to 10. Arzu, how did you feel about this episode?
Like an 8.
Like an 8. Okay.
An 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now
It lost 2 points for the gray hairs it gave me.
that child action got to you, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, and we'll get to that as well. All right, Andy, scale of 1 to 10.
Oh no.
Oh, see, I knew we were gonna have some hot takes today. If you guys want, throw your numbers up in the chat. We might post a few on here for you. But look, we got this one popping out. This Islamic is like, what? 10 out of 10. Andy, you're going to, we got a 9.0. I'm sorry. We got a 9.0 from Mr. Rez. Saber's got a 0.
Is that a 0 or a 10?
I think when you hit shift on the 1, I think that's a 10 with an exclamation point there. So we have some so far, and I'll give my take. I'm a 9.5. I mean, it was, I can only think of one thing that maybe kind of set me back a little bit. Well, a couple things, but overall from a excitement and just a fun episode, I'm way up there. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think. Arzu, let's start with you. How are you feeling about, some of the things that happened right off the get-go? Since you're an 8 out of 10, what's your take on this?
My take on the episode is, first of all, I feel stupid because I thought we weren't going to get to Tython until the finale. I thought they were going to get rerouted and then they would end on Tython, end with Grogu on the Seeing Stone. No, like they land right away. I'm like, I guess I was wrong. I didn't like Boba Fett. I think you guys knew this. Like I was indifferent towards Boba Fett. I like Boba Fett now. He's interesting now. So like he had a bit more time to be a human and not just badass because somebody's telling me he's badass. Like I got to see it.
Right.
Like, okay.
Right.
I've come around on Boba Fett. So
okay. And I have some points. I like hearing that.
But yeah.
And the stress. Yeah. I like hearing that. There's some good stuff there I want to dive into. But before we do that, Andy, go ahead and tell me a couple of your takes.
Well, I want to start by saying I'm not a 4 out of 10 just to be contrary. Okay. I'm not just doing this to add a different take. I'm not doing this just because I don't want to be 3 people agreeing about everything. I have some genuine problems with this episode, and they mostly surround Din. Din was kind of I don't want to say a goofball, but he didn't really like. This is the Mandalorian. It's been about him and Grogu from the jump, and all of a sudden, this episode shifted to a different Mandalorian, because what we saw from the very beginning. When he's just driving in space, he's like, Grogu, and he turns and looks. He's like, Grogu, and he turns and looks, and he's like, okay, do the ball thing again. And it's like he's got a pet all of a sudden instead of a person, and I that kind of bothered me a little bit. But okay, whatever. Sometimes humor doesn't always land in Star Wars, so that's what I chalked that up to. But then
Misa disagree. I'm just kidding.
But then he's like, how many times does he have to say, it's time to go? It's time to go. We got to go. And how many times does he try and get in there before he realizes he can't get in that little force field? I guess we call it a force field, I suppose.
In the most literal imaginary sense, yes.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, now I'm going to go protect you. And he doesn't. And it's just like, I felt like they made Din to be a goofball, and they just totally took away mojo that he had built up. And maybe that's being too critical, but I mean, that's my number one thing, but there are more.
Okay.
Boy.
Well, before we get to the total rant, let's just step through the episode really quickly, hit on a couple cool points. I've got some images to throw up on the screen here. And, the cool thing that I like and I've liked about a lot of these episodes so far is they kind of get right to it. Now, of course they do. They only got 30 minutes. So we had that moment, Andy, to your point with Din maybe treating him like a pet. I'd almost say, let's be honest, if you've got a 3 or a 4-year-old that's starting to progress in something, you just kind of treat them like a pet. You're like, do that again, do that again. And it could come more from a pride perspective. But anyway, and speaking of pets, he does carry him around everywhere. So I liked how much we saw the child flying again, flapping ears in the wind, get me every time. And I'm sure Arzu can agree. It's a good moment. But again, I'm going to say I love the use of jetpacks in The Mandalorian. Jetpacks are not a prop. These things are utilized, and I even like the fact that he's like, hey, no place to land up there. We're going to have to take another route. And they flew, because a lot of times you see him land the ship, a quarter mile away unnecessarily and walk in.
So, Josh, then let me ask you, since you're absolutely right, the use of jetpacks, in season 2 has been awesome. Why didn't he go put his jetpack back on?
So there's a couple reasons, and I'm glad you said that. Yeah. So, and I won't do all the talking. Arzu, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thought was like, I guess Andy's complaint, anything he's got an issue with Din wise, I'm kind of chalking up to like dad brain, like like being proud your little guy is doing so well that you want him to like do the thing again or something like that. So now he is so panicked about getting his little guy out of there that he's not thinking straight. So he's just like, okay, I gotta go, and runs, not stopping to think that let me go get my jetpack first, which would have made more sense. Plus, just from like a pure writing perspective, they need him to not get up there fast enough so Gideon can take the kid. But I was just chalking it up to him panicking and not thinking things through, which is a sign that they are growing closer, that he doesn't see him as a mark anymore, or like a target or a project. It's his son, and now he's like using his emotions and not his mind. But that was like my read on it.
I like that take. Okay, let's keep moving. We had a great view, and I want to talk about this a little later. We had a great view of the temple. I guess temple. I don't know. Did they call it a temple, or did they just call it a place?
Ahsoka calls it a temple.
Okay, it doesn't look like any temple we've seen so far, but maybe there's something under the mountain there. Yeah, exactly. Under the mountain, perhaps. And then we have the Seeing Stone, which was a cool moment. But I want to say, like I said, everything happened really quickly. This moment for me, seeing Slave in the air for the first time since Attack of the Clones, or in the sky or in the space, was a pretty cool moment. And the sound, everything, I think the pacing of how it came in, and all you could hear was it coming across. It's ominous. The Slave didn't come in on some stealth trajectory. He just flew right by, let everyone know he was there. And I thought that was pretty cool. What do you guys think? Seeing Slave, Andy. Seeing Slave?
I know, and it looked very vintage collection Slave too.
Right.
But okay, so I'm gonna try, because I love Boba Fett, and I love the mystique around him, and I love that we just got a glimpse of him in episode 1 of this season, and I would have been fine with that. By the way, I'd have been totally fine just knowing that he exists somewhere. It's like they got to the place, they put him on there, things are happening, comes down, boom, there's Fennec, and then there's troopers. It got to me, I was like, whew, I need to catch my breath a little bit. And that's not a complaint necessarily. It's just like, boy, they're cramming a lot in a half an hour here. And so I was along for the ride as far as that goes. But seeing Slave One was very cool. I really liked how the Seeing Stone, once he put his hand, like once Grogu put his hand down on there, just like Luke and Rey on Octo, when he was like, he puts Rey's hand down and says, breathe, that whole scene, it kind of got a little flashback there. Like he's touching the earth, the ground, he's getting in touch with the Force. That's how it kind of triggered. And then I like what happens here. He's in this meditative state and he's essentially sending his beacon out there. And I think everybody knew that we weren't going to see the result of this little, telephone Force call, at least in this episode, we weren't going to see that. But I don't want to get too far ahead here, but there's going to be an end result to that action, right? Somebody's going to reach out back or come and look and begin looking for him. And so if we're bringing back, and this is getting it too far ahead, but if we're bringing back Bill Burr, if we're bringing back, the Cara Dune and Boba Fett and Fennec Shan, if this is a big meetup, then why can't we bring back Mace Windu? Then why can't we bring back Luke, somebody that we already know? And while there is some allure to that, I'm also kind of like, it would be cool if it was somebody we didn't know. But I already feel like they've gotten into a pattern of bringing back known people. So I have a concern with that.
So do you think that is what you're saying? Do you think that we're maybe getting, for lack of a better term, and I really don't like this term because I think I don't think it's accurate and I think it's overused, but fan service. Are we getting too much fan service here? And the reason I don't like that term is because I'm a fan service me. Sorry, but that's what I'm saying. I'm okay with a little bit of like, moments. And I know that Tross had a bunch of those, and those seem to rub a lot of people the wrong way. But I mean, this moment for me, and the moment with Ahsoka for so many last episode, is okay, because guess what? I'm like, even though we'd already knew Boba was around, right? So Boba wasn't a big reveal. We got that in the first episode of season 2. I still felt him showing back up was a surprise, right? What did we talk about? We talked about the fact that maybe we wouldn't see Boba again in this season, and that maybe they were playing the long run. I think we talked that, at least you and I did, Andy. They're playing kind of the long run. I know they talked about it last week on Streaming Star Wars. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's too much fan service going on right now? Arzu, you got to take.
I think if they walk the line between the two, then I think it's okay, because like the characters we've had so far that are familiar, like Bo-Katan is important to Din's plot because we sort of know about Mandalore, but then we have this gap of time where we don't really know what happened. And Bo-Katan fills in that gap, and it sort of explains how Din got to where he is. Ahsoka is necessary because she sort of, same thing. She fills in some of Grogu's background. And like Boba Fett, I guess, they brought him back from the dead for fan service, but then if they're making it pay off in the plot, then that's okay. I think where I have a problem with fan service is where it's just there to be like, remember this, but it doesn't mean anything to the person on screen. It doesn't help the person on screen at all. It's purely for the person watching. That's where I start to have a problem with it. So if they don't cross that line in the which so far I don't think they have, but like Andy, I'm a little worried they might, just because they like the Twitter reactions when people see it. I'm worried that they will cross that line, but if they don't, then, and just kind of make sure that anything they bring in is relevant, then that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
Well, I was going to say that so far, I think the Mandalorian's done a great job of keeping that balance, and I just it would be a departure if they do it just for fan service sake, right? So on the one hand, I do trust, Favreau, Filoni, and whoever the director is for that particular episode I do trust them to handle it appropriately because they have so far. But what I kind of saw today and what little I can predict for the next couple episodes, then I have a concern that maybe isn't warranted, but I don't know. This could be fun. I want it to be fun. It has been fun. It took a step backwards for me today.
Okay. And I can see where you might get that. And then Arzu, I appreciate your point because obviously we got something out of Boba that we didn't expect just now that he actually showed back up. And then he became like now he's indebted to the Mandalorian, which was pretty fantastic. So let's move through Boba really quick here. I mean, he said those words, I owe you a debt now. So let's click through there. So here's Tamora. I mean, I have to say, and I'm going to rip through these really quick, and we get Fennec back. She's obviously robotic in the belly. She's got a belly robot going on there. We get Fennec back, and then, like you said, Andy, boom, here come the troopers, and Imperial shuttle comes down. I like how they send them one at a time. Just like let those guys polite. Come out. Yeah, being polite.
A slow burn.
We got the complete call to a Normandy beach assault with the dropping, and we've gotten that out of Star Wars quite a few times. But the charging into laser fire, which is hilarious in some points. Charging up the hill, another kind of callback to that sort of warfare. And then I thought this was pretty cool from a trooper perspective. We got a mortar trooper, in full color. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that there was the fire trooper, the flamethrower trooper, whatever you want to call him from last season. But it's always fun for me to see an Imperial stormtrooper in color, like a clone trooper kind of looked. I appreciated that. I don't know how you guys felt.
Breaks up the monotony, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's got colors. He's easier to target, so that people know, hey, that's a mortar trooper. Take that guy out. Take him out quick. So anyway, kind of cool. But then we get into a sequence that I want your guys' take on, and that is the ultimate brutality of Boba Fett, which I took. And here's a shot. Here is the shot. I mean, when this happened, I went, dang, because we see stormtroopers falling to head bonks and lasers, anywhere on their body, but we don't very often, with the exception of Phasma and maybe another, we don't see a helmet get obliterated. I don't know, did it happen in Mandalorian already? And really what I'm getting at here, and I'll get to it in a second, is Boba Fett is, what was he known for? He was the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy, right? And we never saw that through any film canon. We only read it in books, right?
So this is his Vader hallway scene, right?
Correct.
This is why he was a renowned bounty hunter. And so now we're going to get to something that I really enjoyed about it, because I loved that he kicked some serious butt with what is a gaffy stick? Those are called gaffy sticks, right? Mm-hmm. I love that he did it with one of those at first, and then when he got his armor on, it was like riding a bike, man. He had the missile punch, and launched that guy. He had the kneecap rockets, which were totally freaking awesome. And you're right, Josh. He was a complete physical. It wasn't like Fennec, sniping from a distance. It was in your face. There was broken. I mean, he shattered trooper armor, which armor is questionable, but yeah, he took on everything that he used to be. It was like he had come home in his armor and became what he once was after all these years of being in the desert or kind of keeping tabs from afar. He's back. And so that was really great to see it. I just hope it's not at the expense of Din, you know, because I really have gotten to like Din now, and Boba became the dominant personality in the episode. So
let's touch on that point for a sec before we move on. Arzu, what's your take on because you had said at the beginning of our show here that you weren't like the biggest Boba Fett fan. So no, what part of Boba Fett?
Get it?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So what I like about what happened here is I get the Boba Fett kind of took over because he's new, right? And he's like new in this way and sort of new to Din's story, and they really need to make it worthwhile for having him there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I feel like if he's going to stick around for the next 2 episodes, and I think he might, then he's going to sort of fall into the role of like the bounty hunter, the muscle, the kind of not cold, but like very stoic, very serious, because Din's head is not in the right place right now because he just lost his child and he's looking for him. So Din's going to be the heart, and then like Boba will be the muscle of their little team going forward. So I think like now that he's sort of a part of the crew, it'll settle a bit more, and he won't be the dominant personality anymore.
Yeah,
that's my hope anyway.
And I took that. So that's the perfect take. We just had that comment up from Matthew that says, Boba's the alpha now, and I think that was the point you were making too, Andy. There was because Din seemed pretty ineffective. All right, and Arzu's explanation, which I can totally buy into, is he was scared, he was worried, he had no control over the child, he wanted to get him out of there. Din's first reaction is always to let's get the heck out of here. And he couldn't do that. So he had to resort to fighting, but then he kept running back up the hill. I don't disagree with your jetpack take, but it did allow for Boba to kind of be the come flying in, save the day guy. And also for Din not to be able to fly after those dark troopers, which we'll get to. So, but I did want to point out one more thing that was just one of my favorite points. And just from a visual perspective, the rise of Boba in this shot right here was absolutely fantastic and really reminiscent to like Aliens as Predator, as the Predator rises up above, Arnold. That's what I thought when he just comes, he lands and he stands up and then mashes that trooper. I don't know. This was a moment for me. And that being said, here's what I think they did super right. And if they didn't intentionally, it was genius. Cobb Vanth did not look like Boba Fett in Boba Fett's armor. He looked kind of like a kid, a skinny kid wearing his dad's uniform. And Tamora Morrison, and I know he wasn't the original Boba Fett, but it just, to me, there was a sense, and he's an older dude now. He's got a little more weight on the gut, but he just looked imposing. And whatever they did to make him move differently than how Cobb moved in that armor made him terrifying. He was scary. He was brutal. He was the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy, and he proved it. And so, yes, to that point, we could be seeing Din kind of take a back seat to violence, and really Din might be learning, oh, there's somebody badder out there than even he is. And Din's never claimed or acted. He's just had confidence and swagger, but he's never claimed. And Beskar, yeah, which I loved him using the human shield Beskar with Fennec there. That was pretty cool. But what are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, Boba being Boba, he even does the blow up two transports and turn away while it's exploding move. I mean, that's classic. That's classic right there.
Cool
you're
guys
a badass.
Don't look at explosions.
No, they don't. No, they don't. So, any final thoughts on the emergence of Boba in his armor?
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
Well, just that I like how they established him as a Mandalorian, and that he has claim to the armor, through his dad, and they popped up that lineage image, kind of like it was handed down, and he even fought in some of the clone, or not the clone, but the Mandalorian wars. And so I appreciated that because that has been most of the time it's been a dumb question, but like, well, is Boba Fett really a Mandalorian? Well, we know he's a clone. So was his dad a Mandalorian? Well, was he, wasn't he? We didn't really know, but I just like that they kind of paid that off and they kind of validated why he had the armor in the first place. And even though that he claims that he's not he claims no association to anybody. he does have a right to the armor through his dad, who, by the way, one of the few good dads out there in Star Wars. Remember, we talked about that before, but yeah, I appreciated that.
Arzu, what do you want to add?
Well, I don't even remember now, because I just want to I think that you were right, Josh, like the contrast between Cobb not looking right in the armor and then Boba like looking like this is his. Like, I'm positive that was intentional.
Good.
Just in the way they did it. But just to add to what Andy was saying about the sort of the chain code and like him having a claim to that armor, I think there were probably some who wanted the two of them to like brawl and like fight for the armor, like Clegane Bowl round 2 or whatever, like for the armor. But I'm so glad they didn't, because like Din is, you know, principled and he stands by his way and all that. He's not like unreasonable. You know, the minute that Boba says, "This is my armor, here's the proof," he's like, okay, that's fine.
Well,
like,
and don't you think it was interesting too that Din never made a comment to him about, well, I've already seen your face. Like, yeah, like that to me was like, okay, is this just an episode that's happening very quickly and we don't need to go there at this time because we have with other people, or is it becoming less of a thing for Din, or does it even matter now? You know,
maybe there's some. Yeah, maybe there's something in the lore that says if you're recovering your armor, obviously you need to. You can't have a mask on. I don't know. I mean, you can make I think what you said, or Arzu saying maybe it's both. It could be Din softening his stance a little bit on how he feels about Mandalorian and how the armor should go.
Helmet up a bit in front of Grogu now, right? Like just to eat, but still, like he's relaxing his stance a little.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get to the elephant in the room, I do want to bring this up really quick. Thank you again to everyone who's joining us in the chat. We've got lots of great comments coming in. You guys are participating. We appreciate it. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, share with your friends, get more people in here to talk Star Wars and The Mandalorian. But before we move on, we did just want to point out today is the last day that you can support the Hyper Toy Drive. It's super easy. I had a blast last night because I'm like, oh man, you know, wait until the last. It's okay if you wait until the last minute. You're just like me, and I'm fine. So I got on yesterday, and I was able to order a few things, some cool stuff. It was like shopping for myself, except they're not going to get delivered to me. They're going to get delivered to a kid that needs them, that wants them, that's going to have a better holiday because of them. So please support. There's plenty of items up there still in the wish list. You click on the link. You go to beyondtheblasters.com/toy drive. There's a link right there in the message. It takes you right to the site. You click on it, you select our New Jersey drop point, and you hit buy, and you do some good for some kids out there. And today's the last day. So I know so many of you, we've got hundreds of gifts in already, and so many of you have already supported. Tell your friends, tell your mom, whoever, get them out there to help a kid today. All right. So here it is. Here it is, Andy. Here you go, buddy. I'm just going to put the image up. Actually, I'm going to make you big guy now. Here's Andy. Let's all take a nice look at Andy's face after this.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts.
Here, there's Andy's face.
Well, I mean, of course I didn't like this. Like that, we've mentioned how much the Razor Crest has become a character of its own in this show, and how that kind of parallels a lot of the same feelings and thoughts we have towards the Millennium Falcon. And this is for maybe first-time Star Wars people, which a lot of people have been brought into Star Wars through The Mandalorian. This was their maybe on a similar scale, different scale. That was their Millennium Falcon, and it just, I mean, there was nothing left. There was no chance it gets put back together. It is gone, just like my lights. They just turned off. But I'll finish this before I get my lights back on.
It's okay. So I'll put the image back up.
I had a bunch of thoughts initially, and it just like, yeah, Interforce Historian, that hurt. It hurt my feelings when I saw it blow up, because I've invested my care into that ship, and not only that, I've invested a few dollars into it as well. And I don't know what that means moving forward, But we just had a big HasLab Razor Crest, project that's being done. And, now that it's, I can't imagine they would ever bring it back. Or, I know there are other ships that look like that out there, I suppose, but it hurt my feelings. That's all. It hurt my feelings.
Okay.
Is this the tragedy?
I liked how I liked right when you started to talk about the crest that your lights went out. That's just like your heart. Your heart just stopped when you saw the crest. Now, what's your take, Arzu?
So the first word that popped into my head when it blew up was HasLab. And I think that's purely your guys' influence. That was the first thing that popped into my head. I'm like, oh my God. What? Beyond the story concern, how is he going to chase after Grogu? Like, Boba's got a ship. He's fine. But I couldn't believe that they did that, because it's become so much a part of the show. Like Andy said, it's almost a character on its own, that I couldn't believe they just blew it up so thoroughly that you cannot put it back together again.
So I've got a take
hope
on that. And we talked about this before the show, Arthur. Yeah, particles. It was a full disintegration.
Yeah, it's like
gone.
It's dust on the floor now.
Yep, and it's a crater. Kev's Collectibles says it right. Great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices, and I was just going to put a little insert, as if millions of HasLab backers suddenly cried out in pain. Not millions, but at least about 30,000 might have cried out in pain when that thing absolutely disintegrated. Now, here's my take. My take is very simple, and it has nothing to do. I'm sad that the Razor Crest is gone. I do feel like we lost a character. However, here's my thought. If you have a copyright claim on the name of your ship, you just blow it up. There's my take. Don't know if that's accurate or not.
Next season, and they'll build another HasLab model, and we'll get another Lego set, and it goes on and on. You can have like the season 1 and 2 ship, and then the season 3 and 4 ship, and then they'll blow that one up in season 4, and then we'll have another one for season 5 and 6. It's like the cast of The Crown. It rotates every 2 seasons.
And that again
right.
Kind of goes back to an earlier point, that the focus went away from Din and onto Boba. Now his ship's gone, but Boba's ship's back. So that's how they're going to get around, I would imagine. And I didn't want to trade one for the other. I didn't. Sure. I want them both. I want them both there. And maybe I'm being over sentimental towards a spaceship, but I did find it interesting that the only 2 things left were salvageable were the silver colored knob, and
obviously made of Beskar,
and the Beskar staff, which led me to think, like, these are the only 2 things he needed off of that ship, right? He needed the ball for a connection with Grogu, and that I bet that comes back into play at some point in the rescue, or I have visions of Grogu being hooked up to machines and things like Echo was in. I know. But that's what I kind of feel like they're going to do with them. They're not going to kill him, but they do need him in like a comatose state so they can draw his blood and whatever. So in order to get him back, he's going to have to find something to connect him, And so I thought that silver knob would be it's probably going to come back again, not just in his pocket, but it'll play a role. And then as well as that Beskar staff, those are the 2 things, to fight. He's gonna need those 2 things. The ship was awesome. There's a lot of things on there he could use, but the 2 things that he has left are the things that he needs.
Well, like Steve says here, the rifle is gone, and I thought that too. I was like, oh no, that badass rifle is out of here. Unless maybe he'll find it up on a rock somewhere. It survived too, but that's a wood stock. I just don't know if it'd take a direct hit from a Star Cruiser there. So anyway, we did kind of glaze over, and we have to go back because this is kind of a little premature on the death of or at least the silver knob. But we had these dudes show up, and we saw them last episode. We saw them kind of dark, in the shadows with Moff Gideon. And now they were launched. Again, I love the staging of your attacks. Never send your full force in at once. Allow them to be picked off one by one. However, these guys came down. They're terrifying. They're made. I mean, this close up is really awesome. Arzu, what were you saying? They have kind of a feline look, right?
A feline jaguar kind of quality about them. Like, because say what you will about like Vader's helmet or Kylo Ren's helmet or even Stormtrooper helmets, they feel human. These don't. Do you know what I mean? They feel almost like animal. Yeah,
it's the evil Iron Man.
Yep.
There you go.
And I kind of thought, now do you think, so here's a question I have, and you guys help me out here. Do you think that these were the things that Moff Gideon is trying to get to be force sensitive, or these are just the mechanical versions of the clone things that he's trying to make?
I think these are just weapons. I don't think that this is a merging here. I think these are weapons, and I think what you saw in the tanks is, I think he's just trying to make, like, I don't know who brought this theory, you or one of the network people, is he's trying to make force sensitive clones. And
these are like Terminators.
These are Terminators for sure. And speaking of terminating, this scene right here, this is my little Easter egg I took from it. I was immediately drawn to or compared this to Weathertop in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
This is so much like Nazgul surrounding the Fellowship, or at least the hobbits, and it's so ominous. And even the temple looks a bit like Weathertop, you know.
Yeah.
And hopelessness is what. And if you remember, I don't know, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, but if you remember, it was just a hopeless moment. You were like, they're not getting out of this, and that's the same thing I got from this scene right here. You knew Din didn't have his jetpack. You knew he was running up the hill. He wasn't going to make it in time, and they didn't mess around. Troopers march up, grab the child, launch into the atmosphere. So I was pretty. I love this shot. This is a pretty cool shot.
It's not even just a shot. It's a circumstance too, because you have the scary, animalistic, like non-human sort of villains surrounding your childlike characters. Because like that's what the hobbits were in the beginning. Was the more childlike. The warrior who's guiding them is nowhere to be seen, and you're like, so even the circumstance is very Lord of the Rings.
Yes, that's a perfect comparison. Andy, what'd you think of that scene?
You knew it wasn't gonna just be all safe and sound for Grogu, right?
Right.
So this was gonna happen at some point. I think it happened a little faster than we were expecting, but maybe that's good, because it rips the Band-Aid off. It was pretty intense. I fear for Grogu. I fear that, and I said this to Pete earlier today. I said, in order to have the Mandalorian, we need a Mandalorian. If Grogu is for some reason no more at the end of this story, we still have a Mandalorian, and we still have the show. So in some small way, as crazy as it might seem, there is a possibility that he doesn't make it through this. And that would be sad. That would be a real bummer. It would be Grogu would be the new goldfish that we'd have to teach our kids about death with, you know? And
burn it to the ground. People will riot.
Yeah, I think that if I was in Vegas, my odds would be on that is not going to happen, at least now, not until there's a bit more development for the child. I mean, especially maybe
long separation.
Right. So this had to happen. This is the first time Din's been away from the child since episode 2 or whatever, 1 or 2, you know, and then he went and got him back right away. So this is a moment for Din to come to terms with, I think, who he is as in relation to the child. I think he's going to be desperate. He's going to be distraught, and he's going to maybe do some desperate things to recover him. So, which is necessary given who he's dealing with in Moff Gideon.
Josh, doesn't that kind of go against though what he said at the beginning of the show? It's like, my goal was to get you to your people, to your kind, and they'll take care of you and keep you safe. Even though he's been that placeholder for now, I know we can't. I know that he's grown attached to him. There's no way he can't. But this is all happening not on his terms, and he fears for the child. So of course he's got dad brain, like you were saying. I think that's a great way to put it. But hasn't this always been about their eventual parting?
I think.
Go ahead, take it.
Is that they're going into it with Din thinking that they're going to separate. But I think the way it's building is that this is going to turn from him wanting to give him to somebody else, turning to him deciding to keep him. Because the way he's saying, he's like, I'm going to send you to them because they know how to take care of you, because they know how to like give you like the training you need. And like how many family films have we seen the like well-meaning person who like adopts their nephew or whatever and is like, I'm going to send you to this other family because they can take better care of you. And then the lesson we learn in the end is that no, it's the love and the family, and that's what you need to get by. Like it's that in Star Wars. So he's like sitting there all choked up going, no, somebody else can raise you better than I can. And then my thinking is ultimately by the end of this series or whatever, or at least once, he's going to realize that no, like maybe Grogu will choose to not pursue that path. I don't know, but that he will decide to raise him himself. That's what I think we're building to, is him shifting from this lone bounty hunter to father of adorable toddler.
Yeah. Did you guys think at all that, and I've seen some comments about Tython here in the chat, do you think it kind of had a Lothal kind of feel to it? No? All right. Maybe it's just me.
It sort of. I was just very thrown by the fact that it was keenly where we were outside and not in the volume. That's not the volume. That is actually outside. Yeah. And I loved it. I got such a kick out of it, but that was as far as my thinking on it went.
So, okay. Well, that's some good takes. I don't have too much more to add other than I think, to your point, Andy, Din he's a man of principles, so he's going to follow through on his mission while he still may be conflicted about what his relationship to Grogu is. So that may be like, I know it's always been set up for them to part ways, but under Din's terms, and that wasn't how it happened today. So, okay, we've got to get moving. We got to wrap up the last few so we can get to the end of this show. We're going a little long, but hey, that's what we do on Streaming Star Wars. The last scenes that we saw a pretty interesting prisoner exchange going on here. I liked that you could hear the troopers as Gideon was walking to the door getting thumped around. But I guess this is baby bowling or something. I don't know. How'd you guys feel about this pretty blatant use of the Force by Grogu?
Well, he was threatened, and he's a kid, by all standards. And so defending himself in the only manner he can, this didn't seem out of place to me. We think our Jedi to be more stoic. He's not a Jedi, though. He was maybe going to be one. But he's flirted with being ticked off and using the Force before. So the only bummer is that it just zaps him when he does it. And that was true. Actually, that was true with Yoda as well.
Right.
And he was, after his lightsaber battle with Dooku, he was kind of wiped out, and he kind of lumbered on his cane a little heavier afterwards. So there is an expense to using the Force. I get it. And I think that was just part of Moff Gideon's plan. Throw a couple of knuckleheads in there, tire out the kid, and then walk in there with this big bad sword.
Well, right? Gideon even was like, wait, he's not done yet. The other troopers were like, my buddy. And then they just let him beat him around for a few more minutes there. And we had a few comments that I threw up there on the screen talking about the possibility that Grogu is getting in touch with a little bit of the dark side. I actually thought at that moment, I thought at that moment that that Gideon was kind of looking for that. Gideon had that look in his eyes a little bit, kind of as he's throwing the troopers, and when he stopped the other, of like, hey, let him go. And I thought I didn't know he was going.
What he can do.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a little bit of darkness there. And then did we not? We just talked about Dave Prowse, and may he rest in peace. Did we not see Grogu do a little choke clench with his 3 fingers? I believe I did. Maybe I'm seeing things. Did you guys see that?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Well, we'll let the chat confirm. They always know better than we do anyway. So let them, I mean, that in actually the most honest way, not the smart ass way. But no, that seemed to be a little bit of like, look, Jedi don't force choke as far as we've ever seen. But Grogu definitely had control of the situation by a throat in that scene. And then this image, which I found pretty powerful, pretty menacing. Gideon kind of like, hey, what do you like this? You like what you see? What did you guys get out of this tape? What do you think he's trying to convey to what he does know to be a Force user?
Well, guys with the lightsabers have been his teachers before,
right?
And maybe preparing him that I am the next, and last. Doggone it, my lights went off again. But I don't know. I thought that this was like he was teasing him a little bit, like, you want this, don't you? Like the Emperor said to Luke, and and maybe in a way, like, I don't know, he reached up like he was going to grab it by the laser side of it, and so maybe he hasn't ever actually wielded one before, but he definitely knows what that is and what it could mean to whoever's holding it.
Correct. So that's a good take. And obviously then we have this menacing shot of Gideon over the child. I love this shot too, with the troopers in the back. You've got the Imperial panels above. It's a very iconic Empire type look. And Gideon's showing himself to be the bad dude that we knew he was going to be. So, finally we get this scene, which I actually found funny and adorable all at once. Who knew they made child-sized shackles? I mean, we knew they made Wookiee-sized shackles, but now we've got, I like that the trooper, he had that on his person. The trooper's like, oh, where's my child-size? There they are. He's got his kit of manacles and
thumb locks.
That's right. So a kind of a cliffhanger ending. We don't know what's going to happen to the child. We do know what were the words that were said. He's got his donor. What did he say? He's got his donor.
We have our donor.
A donor. So that's, obviously we know that's a blood thing, but we don't know if that's to the death or just to be hooked up on an IV for constant flow. What do you guys think?
I think like I said earlier, he'll be like Echo in the Clone Wars. He'll be hooked up to a machine and they're gonna tap him for all he's worth.
If they kill him, they run out, right?
Yeah, so they need him. They do need him alive, but I mean, what expense?
What expense? Okay, so guys, we're coming to the end of the show. Before we move on to our last point, which is just to kind of ask, where does it go from here? I just want to thank everyone again in the chat and remind you to hit subscribe, like, and that today is our last day of the Hyper Toy Drive. We'd love you all to get on there and participate. Tell your friends and help a kid out. Here, I'll throw it up on the screen at beyondtheblasters.com/toy drive. It's a great cause, and you guys are the ones that make it happen. All right, last thoughts. Arzu, I'm going to start with you. Where are we going? Where are we going from here?
I think next episode, we're going to see what it is Moff Gideon's doing with Grogu, and then we're going to see Din putting his crew together. I don't think we'll see a whole prison break for Bill Burr, but we're going to see him sort of putting his crew together, pulling in maybe people we've seen this season. And then
right, we didn't touch on Bill Burr. Thanks for bringing him up. Yeah, go ahead and add him in. So we're seeing a crew, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we're going to assemble the crew next episode, and then the finale will be the showdown with Gideon. However that ends. Okay.
Any hot takes? Anything maybe we aren't going to expect, but it's going to happen?
I think they're going to. This is my prediction for what's going to happen right at the end. I want to get it in now, so when it doesn't happen, I look stupid. So he's going to get Grogu back. They're going to find a new ship. However they do that, he's going to take his helmet off to have that connection, and right then is when a Jedi comes and finds them.
Interesting. Okay. Duly noted, as well as it will be in the chat. That's not a bad take. All right, Andy, your turn.
Okay. I think I don't disagree with what Arzu said. With 2 episodes left, there's the let's get ready and then let's go. So the only thing is that there's the players that we kind of already know that's going to be in this little team up. It's the ones that I'm not sure of that could be intriguing, like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka. You know, that they got sprinkled in. Are we going to see them again? It would be cool if we did. I would be all for those people joining the fray, and or whatever Jedi responds to the beacon. You know, the Force beacon.
Yeah, we still have that. I mean, I guess before you move on, and I'll just make this part of my saying here is, are we getting too many characters to pile them all into 2 more episodes? I mean, we've got Boba to consider. We've got Ahsoka, who we may or may not see again because we don't need to really. We've got a possible Jedi who's going to come into the mix. What else? The whole crew anyway. Are we going to see Cara Dune? Grief? Are they going to join up? And then Bill Burr, I mean, and that's what is that? Mayfeld or something like that. So, is it too many? Is this a too large of a collection to tie together in 2 more episodes and still maintain kind of the story we're going for?
I think it'll be Bill Burr and Cobb Vanth, because I think Bo-Katan,
yeah, I forgot Cobb too.
Her own, and she's doing her own thing, and then I think Ahsoka is on her own mission looking for Thrawn. So I think he's going to get Bill Burr because he knows he needs him. Get Cobb Vanth, maybe Cobb Vanth, like that would just be pure fan service, but the kind I'm here for. He would get Cobb Vanth, like maybe because he needs more help or whatever. But I think that'll be it. He'll keep it fairly, just because our 2 big guest stars this season have like missions of their own. So I don't know that he'd pull them away from that for this.
Okay.
Yeah, the only one that probably didn't lend herself to coming back would be Ahsoka out of all of those.
Mm-hmm.
So. I mean, and even Bo-Katan and the 2 that she was with, Axe and
Casca,
yeah. They have at least a common goal of trying to take down Moff Gideon. So why not? True. You know, why not? Group back up with them. The thing with getting a bunch of people together, and we saw this in Marvel, is that you bring everybody together knowing that some were going to have to pay the sacrifice for the ultimate goal. All right. If there's only 1 or 2, it's much more likely that they survive it. And there's not as the risk and reward are not as great. But if there's like skin in the game of people actually don't come out of this, and I hate to be the one that says, they always keep saying, well, who's not going to come out of this? But it happened in Harry Potter, it happened in Marvel, you know, in the big fight at the end, you know, you have a lot of people so that you can show the cost of what you're fighting for.
Gotcha. Okay. So 2 more episodes left. Super excited to get there. I'm a little easier. I love listening to all the theories that come out and all the ideas. And then I also just like sitting down and watching the show and just being surprised. That's why I don't notice things like the music, which Arzu, you said there was some awesome music during the Boba scene, right?
Not the Boba scene, the scene where Grogu's throwing the stormtroopers around.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just some really cool effects. I can't wait to go back and watch it. But we've come to our time limit today. We've talked about it enough. And we're also going to have a show later on this evening. Like we're doing a part 2, the call-in show, which we did last week. So thank you to everyone in the chat that joined us. But you're going to have an opportunity tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, to get on and have your voice heard, which is so much fun.
So go watch it again,
right?
And try and pull some more out of it, because that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and I think you need to. We got to get past the sadness of the crest, and then kind of watch it. Maybe fast forward past that part, so you don't cry again, Andy. But anyway, Andy, Arzu, thanks for joining us. I'm going to take us out of here, and we will see you guys soon. Okay, so thanks again for joining us on Streaming Star Wars. Again, you can find us at YouTube/Beyond the Blast Doors, on our website at www.beyondtheblastdoors.com. And please go and support that toy drive for the final day. If you have a moment, if you've got $5, as my buddy Andy would say, you know, it's the cost of a cheeseburger to make a kid smile. Maybe 3 cheeseburgers. Depends on how much you want to pull out of your wallet. But thank you again for watching us. We're so excited to talk more Star Wars with you. Like I said, tonight you can join the conversation again at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're out of here. We'll see you guys soon.
I am Bo-Katan, Clan Kryze. I was born on Mandalorian plot in the First. I am the last of my line.